All right.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Berkshire OLLI's second summer semester community open house. I'm Barbara Lane, the president of the OLLI board. It's great to see such a mix of familiar and new faces. Especially warm welcome to our new members. We're delighted that you've chosen to join our OLLI. If you haven't yet joined and you're completely new and this is your first exposure, I want to share with you that our OLLI offers 5 semesters of classes, a distinguished speakers series, special events, shared interest groups, opportunities for volunteering. We are a volunteer-led, volunteer-fueled community of lifelong learners, and we would be delighted to have you join us. We're here, of course, in order to learn from our amazing lecturers as to what they have in store for us for second summer semester. But first, I have to make some thank yous. And first, a big thank you to board members Len Tabbs and Steve Tobin. They are both the co-founders and co-sponsors of our Summer 2 semester. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've offered a second summer semester, and we are so grateful to both Steve and Len for their continued support. Another very big thank you always goes to our 5 curriculum committee chairs and members and all our volunteer lecturers who produce outstanding courses for us 5 semesters a year, year after year. Without you, there's just simply isn't an OLLI. It's truly as simple as that. Then there's our mighty trio, and that would be our executive director, Megan Wilden, and our staff members, Andy Otteson and Ray Langsdale. We so appreciate your hard work and dedication, and never, ever more than over the last 15 months or so, when we've managed to produce, with your help and your hard work, more content than we've ever done before in the midst of a global pandemic. Finally, I want to give you all a little bit of a heads up regarding our fall semester. We are planning on having a mix of in-person, online, and hybrid classes for the fall. Of course, the return to in-person classes will depend on CDC guidelines and state restrictions, if any, in force at that time. But we're very hopeful and planning on offering courses on all 3 platforms. I also want to let you know that our IT committee is working tirelessly to fine-tune the technology to provide members with the best possible experience while we're participating online and using a hybrid format. I think that completes my assignment. So I'm now going to turn it back over to Megan. Megan?
Thank you so much, Barbara. You are an incredible leader, and you've been incredible, especially over the past 15 months, as you say, which I remember you kept saying, this is a year of experiments. This is the year of experiments as we plowed forward, and we're very excited about where we are today. It's my great honor today to introduce many of the instructors who are teaching online with OLLI this summer. And first off, I would like to introduce Steve Tobin, who you just heard about, he is a co-founder of the second summer semester, as well as a generous co-sponsor of it. Whoops, wait, where'd you go, Steve? Let me put you back there.
Okay.
What? Okay, here you go. Wait, why? I'm sorry. Anyway, Steve is best known as one of the terrific leaders of the Today's Headlines discussion classes, which are offered every semester, but he's also an OLLI board member, a member of the development committee, and so much more. Please join me in welcoming Steve, who will talk briefly about Today's Headlines, which is held on Monday mornings, and the class he curated, Hot Topics, which will be held on Wednesday afternoons.
All right, thank you, Megan, and thank you, Barbara. I want to welcome all of you. I want to thank you all for coming today. Very briefly, the Headlines course is an opportunity for everyone to come and talk about what's going on in the world today. The purpose of the class is for everybody to be able to express their feelings, talk about what they think about, and it's done in an hour and a half, and sometimes we think we could go longer, but we confine it to that. We have a large turnout. We enjoy it. We've had a large group of people continuing to attend. For those of you that haven't done it, you would enjoy it. Most of the people we come are good readers and have read things, so it's an enjoyable hour and a half every week. Anyhow, Megan, thank you. And again, Barbara, thank you. Megan, you're going to go ahead and introduce everybody for Hot Topics.
Yep. Okay. Yes, of course. Yep. Thank you. And there was a question actually already in the audience about how you're doing the hybrid session of today's headlines. And Mike, that will be with using an OWL as well as Zoom. And we'd be happy to chat with you later about that as well. Next up, let's see, did Jeffrey join us? Okay. So now I would like to introduce, so as Steve mentioned, he is teaching a class. He has curated a class called Hot Topics, which features a different presenter on a different hot topic each week. And we're going to introduce some of those speakers, talk briefly about what their session will be on. And the first up is retired pathologist Shireen Nash on the Nobel Prize winning hepatitis B vaccine. Shireen? See, where did she go? I don't see her.
She has to unmute herself.
I'm unmuted. I'm good.
Sorry, there you go.
Thank you, Megan, Steve, Barbara. I'm delighted to be part of this august group of presenters. And I was very pleased when Steve said, do you have a hot topic? And last year's Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine went to the discoverers of the hepatitis C virus. So I'm going to be talking about that, the whole story of the virus, the clinicians, the scientists, why it took so long to identify the virus. And now we have almost eliminated the virus with no vaccine, but excellent treatments. So I have had fun putting this together, and I do hope that the OLLI audience will enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shireen. We're looking forward to that. Next up, I'd like to welcome Ed Lane, Fearless Finance and Economics Professor and husband and first dude of OLLI's board president, Barbara. He'll be discussing debt and deficits in the Hot Topics class.
Thanks, Megan. Well, the name of the topic for my section was going to be debt and deficits, but I'm actually going to modify it a little bit and call it economic fallacies. And I'd like you to, I'm going to mention 5 of the fallacies that I had planned to talk about, but perhaps there are some others that those of you who join the class will like to hear about. The 5 fallacies that I was going to refer to is that, first of all, taxes and or government debt finance government expenditures. Now remember, these are fallacies, so when I make these statements, I really mean that the opposite is true. Second fallacy is that there's only so much money that can be spent. The third is that too much money leads to inflation. The fourth is that government debt must be repaid at some point. And the fifth fallacy, which may now be out of date, is that corporations should pay more taxes. You can tell from that I think corporations should pay less taxes. But that may be moot now that there has been an international agreement for a minimum tax. So maybe we'll think of some other things. The one thing that I would ask those of you who join my class to think about, and we'll talk about it when we meet, is what do you think, where do you think money comes from? Where money comes from is, excuse me, where money comes from is really fundamental to understanding how our economy actually works. So I look forward to the class, and I hope many of you can join me.
Great. Thank you so much, Ed. That sounds fascinating, especially the very elemental question about money. Next up in our quick look at hot topics is Gordon Josephson. He is our vice president of the OLLI board in a former position, and he will be talking about the future of COVID, much as he can, given that, who knows?
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you, Barbara, and everybody else who puts their shoulder to the wheel to make OLLI work for us. In hot topics, I think none of us can think of something which is hotter, at least in the medical world, than our ongoing fascination and obsession with COVID. So I thought long and hard in terms of what I wanted to put together for this talk. And it seemed to me that we are in hopefully the final lap of this pandemic. And so I want to take a look at how we got to this point that we are right now. So a very brief history of the vaccine development piece, which is a story in and of itself. The current state of our vaccination progress, I think many of us know that, but there's a little bit more behind that than meets the eye. And in the last section we're going to look at, we'll talk about vaccine effectiveness. I mean, most of us really, I think, basically understand that these vaccines are highly effective and really, for the most part, have stamped out any kind of serious illness associated with COVID. But I don't think we realize how impressive that has been. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at some of the differences between the different vaccines, looking at the immunity issue and how long it will last, will we need boosters and what's behind that. And then a little brief glimpse at what I think is the future. But nobody knows that, of course, and we'll just sort of take a little bit of a wild guess. So that's about it. And I really look forward to meeting many of you and presenting this work.
Thank you so much, Gordon. So as you can see, the Hot Topics class has a variety of fascinating instructors on really important topics, and a different one every week. Next up, I'd like to introduce Brian Hales. Whoops, what? There's something strange going on with with Zoom today. Brian practices what he is teaching. The class is called The Art of Song, 1,000 Years of Singing. It's going to be on Tuesday mornings. Brian is actually singing in the Berkshire Opera Festival production of Falstaff this summer, as well as busking on the streets of Great Barrington. So he does it all, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his course this summer.
Thanks, Megan. So my course is called The Art of Song, 1,000 Years of Singing. It's going to be in what's called a survey format. In other words, we're going to look at this chronologically. And the format will be somewhat similar to the one I used 2 years ago for those of you who participated in my forms and analysis of music class. And there will be some overlaps, but this is going to focus specifically on song. And I think it's important to say what I mean by song in this context. And that's what we think of as the 3, 5, maximum 10-minute piece that's really been the backbone of singing throughout the ages. So we'll touch on, but we won't really go into things like opera and oratorio and mass. We'll keep it to the short song format. And we'll start about 1,000 years ago in the medieval era, the time of the troubadours. We'll look at some of the pioneers of what was then a lot of religious singing, people like Hildegard von Bingen. But then we'll work through, over the 6 weeks, we'll work through the medieval era, through the Renaissance, through the emergence of forms such as madrigals and motets, through the Renaissance into the classical era. We'll look at the way that popular singing paralleled serious and religious singing. Then we'll as we get into the Romantic era, we'll look at the emergence of Lieder with proponents such as Schubert. And then we'll look at the emergence of popular music as it came under the leadership primarily of the United States, of the Americas, popular music being a synthesis of European folk music, African traditional music, African blues, some Latin music, and the way all of this popular music came together in the late 19th century. We'll look at the emergence of Tin Pan Alley, of Broadway, the impact of the recording industry and how that fundamentally changed the way people sing. We'll look at the modern approach to classical singing. We'll follow through the rock and roll era through to the present time. I'm not going to pretend to be anything of an expert on rap music, but we'll cover just about everything else. And we'll also look at some world music, some of the music that's happening in Africa, Brazil, and places like that. So that's a lot to cover in 6 weeks. We'll use a lot of examples, primarily on YouTube. So there'll be a lot of listening to the examples of this music. No formal background is needed. All of us have been exposed to popular music throughout our lives, and many of us have differing degrees of exposure to classical music, but anyone will be able to follow this course, and it should be an interesting survey over the next 6 weeks. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian. And from international music to international folk dancing, what a segue. We're so excited as a late offering to the summer 2 semester. We have our second in-person class in 2021. And this will be taught by Elaine Selm, founder of the Brooklyn Heights Folk Dancing Group. And she will be teaching international folk dancing in person on Friday afternoons outdoors under a tent on the beautiful grounds of the Mount. This class is filling up very quickly, so if you'd like to sign up, we'd recommend doing it very soon. Please join me in welcoming Elaine.
Thank you, Megan. First of all, I want to say thank you to Megan and to OLLI for organizing this. Over the last, 2 months, we started communicating, and Megan made it happen at the Mount. It wasn't clear that's where it would be initially, but more power to us to having landed that space. I went to visit it the other day and it looks great. And if it weren't for my cousin Howie, I wouldn't even know about OLLI. So thank you, Howie, for telling us all about it over the years. And my husband, Peter, has signed up and taken a lot of classes in the last 2 months. So it's time to get outdoors, where everyone loves Zoom, as we said earlier, but isn't it time to start moving around? Whether or not we hold hands, that we can determine at some point, but folk dancing is fun. Number one, it's great exercise. Number two, we'll be listening to very interesting music and rhythms. That's number three, and getting exercise. I mean, what more do we need, having been on Zoom for the last 16 months? And I can speak for that. I did a Zoom class from my living room for 16 months, and I'm ready to be outdoors. That's so important. Some of the countries whose dances we'll do will be Israel and Greece and Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Russia. We'll do some African dancing, maybe some American line dancing. We'll travel the world through great music. If you can't come each week, we will be reviewing each week, so you'll be able to catch up. But ideally, 6 sessions and learning dances throughout those 6 sessions would be great. All levels. I know some of you were involved with folk dancing a few years ago, we learned, and that's great. If you're a beginner, that's great. We'll have dances for everybody. So Friday afternoons at the Mount, I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And we've also talked about, if I can mention, the possibility of having an international folk dancing shared interest group in the future. So maybe in the works as well. So we're so excited to welcome Elaine as a first-time OLLI instructor. Next up, I'd like to introduce someone who's taught a number of wonderful classes, Ralph Pearson. Not only has he taught wonderful classes, he was an OLLI instructor pioneer last spring when we had to quickly shift our classes from in-person to online. And he forever gets the trophy for going the farthest to teach. I mean, literally going the farthest, but also making the most effort, because he did not have enough internet at his home in Savoy. So he would drive down to the MCLA parking lot in North Adams to teach his class from a laptop in his car when it was quite cold out too, right? In order to use the Wi-Fi from the local college. And so he always, in my mind, gets the trophy for the greatest effort. And he still comes actually all the way out to Berkshire Community College campus to teach his classes because of the internet there. So it's my delight to welcome Ralph, and he's going to be teaching, of course, on modernist Canadian art on Thursday mornings. Ralph?
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate the flattery and the recognition too. You're most welcome. I enjoy teaching immensely. My primary interest is landscape art, and this will be my third class when we go into the Canadian Modernist, although that's not as much landscape painting as the Hudson River School was and the previous course I taught, which bridged from the Hudson River School era in the mid-19th century up until the early 20th century. This kind of takes us into an area of the 20th century. And like we just heard Elaine say, it's great to get outdoors. That's what these Canadian artists, most of them, the group of 7, were doing. They were graphic designers in Toronto, and they found their way to backpacking around their young nation and helped form the national identity, the cultural identity of Canada in a big way. The ones who were not as much out of doors, shall we say, was a group of painters in Montreal, as opposed to the group of 7 in Toronto. And that's a group of primarily women painters, concurrent with the group of 7 in the primarily 1920s. The Beaver Hall group in Montreal is where we'll go as well. And we'll also look at David Milne, another Canadian modernist painter. The group of 7 is primarily the focus of this, though, and I'll be showing some full-length films and also some clips from YouTube videos and some class discussion. But you'll find that these painters, the group of 7, they used the North Country as their subject matter. They had some very vivid, rich colors, boldly painted surfaces, broadly handled design, if you want to call it that. They avoided the illusion of depth. And like the other painters I mentioned, the Hudson River School, a few things in common. They dealt with the tranquility of nature, the reverence for nature, the beautiful scenery. And they came along at a time in Canada's development, about 50 years after it was formed, much like the Hudson River School did here in the United States, although they were nearly a century later. So we're going to focus on 3 artists from the group of 7. Lauren Harris, who was a founding member, Tom Thompson, who was an affiliate, and Emily Carr, who was way out there on the West Coast, but became a member of the mainstream of Canadian art. I think you'll enjoy it. It's Thursday morning, scheduled for 2 hours. There will be a couple of classes where we won't quite reach the 2-hour mark. It'll be more like an hour and a half, but I hope you'll join us and continue learning more about the beauty of the natural world on canvas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ralph. And Ralph is also a retired travel impresario, I would just say, and he is going to be working with OLLI to organize some group travel when it feels right, as far as the post-pandemic and stuff like that. So look forward to some really interesting trips abroad and elsewhere soon, we hope. And next up, I'd like to introduce Howie Arkans. Whoops. Okay. Now, why is that happening?
There I am.
There you go. All right, thank you. Howie has been teaching highly acclaimed Italian cooking and film classes for OLLI for over a decade, and is also a former board president. This summer, I'm so thrilled that he is focusing on the films of a king of comedy, because we all need comedy in our lives after the past year. The inimitable Bill Murray on, of course, Tuesday afternoons. Howie?
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, Bill Murray has been described as a national treasure, as a comedy icon, with an almost half a century in comedy and dramedy, spanning from Saturday Night Live to On the Rocks, Sofia Coppola's latest film, to be released this summer, Wes Anderson's latest, The French Dispatch, which opens in Cannes this month in July. We'll sample 5 films, starting with the lowbrow, raucous cult comedy Caddyshack, ending with St. Vincent, which Ebert.com said in 2014, quote, Murray is a starring role is rare enough nowadays, but all opportunities to see the great actor work should be savored. In between, we'll screen Groundhog Day, Rushmore, and Broken Flowers. Last winter, we saw Lost in Translation and Moonrise Kingdom when we were looking at auteurs. So we won't see those. But if you haven't seen those and want to take the course, it's a good idea to rent those either on Netflix or on Amazon Prime. They're both available. We'll discuss Murray's famous disagreements with peers, friends, and directors, which often led to fisticuffs, as well as his funny, quirky, enigmatic personality. The usual questions and prizes, which have highlighted Tuesday at the Movies for the past 12 years, will be again shown. So zoom in and enjoy the genius of Bill Murray, giving you laughs and sometimes tears at Ollie's Tuesday at the Movies, starting July 20th at 2:30. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Howie. That sounds wonderful. That is one of those things that I would love to attend. Next up, it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Wooters. He is the Williams College Professor Emeritus of Physics and a now beloved OLLI instructor who can make the most insane physics subjects mostly comprehensible to no matter what your experience level. And this summer, he'll be teaching a course entitled Quantum Theory Still Crazy After All These Years on Wednesday mornings. Bill, tell us more.
Thanks so much, Megan. And hi, everybody. And all these courses sound fantastic. So you build a fire in your fireplace, and after the flames have died down, there's still the glowing embers. And the embers are glowing red. Like a lot of other hot things, they're glowing red. And people have known forever that hot things tend to do that, they glow red. But amazingly, it wasn't until the beginning of the 20th century, with the advent of quantum theory, that people actually understood why hot things tend to glow red. I'm not going to explain that now, it's in the course. Let me just tell you 2 facts about quantum theory. One is it's a hugely successful theory. It explains things from the level of elementary particles to the level of stars. And the second thing is it's a crazy theory. After almost 100 years, physicists still can't figure out what quantum theory is trying to tell us about the nature of physical reality. And this course is going to cover both of those aspects, the great accomplishments, the successes, and the real puzzles. And it's for everybody, no prerequisites. Thanks.
Fantastic. I love it. I always get jealous when I hear about OLLI courses because I'm not retired yet, so I don't have time to attend them, but I'm so happy so many people do. Next up, speaking of science, we have a terrific science class that we have every semester called Science Conversations. It's a moderate discussion class on the latest in research and discoveries and so forth. And our fearless, one of our fearless moderators is Hank Gold, and he is a retired physician. Hank, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Megan. The Science Conversations is a lot like the headline news. There's no set curriculum. We wind up talking about things that are featured in the Science Times section on the Tuesday New York Times There's no predicting what topics they will wind up featuring. And so there's topics in physics. We might even wind up talking about quantum theory as well, astronomy, medicine. There's always something about exercise and things like that. And the people who attend the class are really the ones who make the class. This is an open conversation. People participate, and I'm always happy to have as much participation as possible. And sometimes people have other topics that they want to discuss, and we're open to that as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing, the topics that we're going to wind up discussing as the weeks go by. I'm looking forward to meeting with all of you people again. And I thank you, Megan, and I'm looking forward to it. Another good semester. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hank. And last but definitely not least is Richard Maturo. Richard is a longtime OLLI instructor, also beloved, and he's also the chair of our literature curriculum committee. And he will be leading a course on his book of short stories and a novella, The Porch of the Maidens, on Thursday afternoons. Richard?
Okay, thank you, Megan. This is my 11th year as an OLLI literature instructor, and you can usually find me teaching subjects like Shakespeare or Homer or Melville. But with the coming of the pandemic, I started doing something different, especially since most of our other entertainment venues vanished. Being a novelist and having been also an actor, I've been doing a dramatic reading of one of my own books for each semester. Well, with the pandemic winding down this summer, I've come to the 7th and last of these courses. I'll be reading my Porch of the Maidens, a collection of 6 short stories and a novella. Each of the stories in the collection takes its title from a woman from Greek mythology and its basic plot from her story. But all of them have been updated, occurring in the present, and offering a modern twist on the ancient myth. Now, many people think of mythology as a bunch of quaint old tales that took place long ago and far away. But in fact, most of the stories tell of human situations and dilemmas that are as current as any scandal or sensational tidbit you're likely to encounter in the tabloids. Take the story of Phaedra, for instance. After the death of his first wife, a very prominent man takes for his second wife a much younger woman, who subsequently has an affair with a man's adult son. Now, that could never happen today, right? Well, I'll be reading 2 stories in each class, with time at the end of each for a general discussion. It's sort of a cross between an audiobook and a book discussion group, with the difference that the author is present. So if you have something on your mind that you'd like to say, something you like or dislike, you can get it off your chest right then and there. It's also a chance to explore writing from the inside and get a writer's perspective on the creative process. And I tell participants that you don't need to sit at the computer the whole time. You can turn up the volume and move about. Have your afternoon tea, start your cocktail hour a little early, and all you need to do is come back when the discussion starts. Mainly it's a time to relax and enjoy. The class will be Thursday afternoons at 2:30 beginning July 22nd, and I hope to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you to all of our instructors who spoke here today. As you can see, it's an embarrassment of riches, the quality of the instruction and the classes at OLLI, all taught by volunteers, all organized by volunteers. We encourage anyone who has a question for any of the instructors or for OLLI staff on registration or anything else, you can put that in the chat now. Let us know. And also just a few notes about signing up for classes with OLLI. First, if you're not yet an OLLI member, OLLI at BCC member, you will need to join in order to enroll in classes. It's only $30 to enroll as a summer member, giving you an opportunity to try us out. And if you'd like to become a year-round member, it's only another $30 for another 9 months. So it's a great deal, and summer is a great time to explore OLLI at BCC. If you're a member of another OLLI, just know that each OLLI is a separate independent organization. So you do have to join each OLLI that you want to take classes with separately. We're not all one big organization. Let's see. And you can register for classes on our website or call us with a credit card at 413-236-2190. Any of these classes. If you're already registered, but after today, you're like, oh my goodness, I really want to add some more classes, just give us a call at that number and we'll be happy to add that class to your list. The website currently can't handle adding another class. That's what's important. And if you're excited about one or more of these but can't attend them all of the sessions because your summer schedule is heating up, and hurrah for that, don't worry, we have you covered in 2 different ways. First of all of our Zoom courses, and that would be everything except international folk dancing, are recorded. So if you miss a class, the OLLI office is happy to send you a copy of it afterwards to work for leisure. And second, we also offer flex passes, which are the same price as a class, but allow you to attend up to 6 different class sessions of your choice, as long as they're not full. So right now, it's possible, very possible, that the folk dancing class will be full, so you wouldn't be able to use the flex pass for that. But any other class, you can as well. So we have the phone number put in the chat, and this is the last call for any questions. Oh, I see a question here from Cora Benson, and she says, for the science conversations and today's headlines classes, will we get copies of the articles ahead of time? And Steve or Hank, do you want to answer that?
Oh, I'll answer first. In our headlines class, I do send articles out periodically, sometimes every day, that I think are topical. And at the same time, we'll keep you in touch and you can communicate with me also.
Great. Hank, you want to add anything?
Yeah, the science conversations is based on the topics that are featured in the Tuesday New York Times Science section. And the class is on Friday, so that gives everyone a chance to read the section and think about it and decide what topics that are in it that they want to discuss and maybe do a little more research about some of the things that are there. So anyhow, if you pick up the Tuesday New York Times, look at the science section. We'll talk about it on Friday, and I look forward to the opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hank and Steve. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. I just want to mention, okay, I don't see any more questions, but I just want to mention that classes are not the only thing that OLLI at BCC offers. We also have terrific shared interest groups, which are free to all OLLI at BCC members and are organized by members who want to meet up with people who share the same interests or activities. And that includes everything from French conversation to downhill skiing to mystery novels and much more. We also offer special events and speakers. And in fact, this Friday, we have a Tanglewood preview with a very popular longtime OLLI speaker, Boston University music professor, Jeremy Yutkin. That's at 4 p.m. on Friday, just before Tanglewood starts. And that is on Zoom, and he'll be giving a preview of the concerts that will be featured at Tanglewood here. And I think also we actually just finished up an unusual class, and this was an online cabaret singing and performance class. And the online concert or performance for the course members is happening tomorrow night at 7:30, also on Zoom. It is free and open to all, and it was really delightful sitting in on the run through earlier today. And finally, also tomorrow, because this is a jam-packed week, we are collaborating with our friends at Villages of the Berkshires on a panel discussion about villages, featuring the National Villages Organization, the very first village, which is sort of a community for growing older without walls, and then the Villages of the Berkshires themselves. So all of this information and more can be found on our website. And as always, if you have any questions or need further information, just give us a call or send us an email and we'll be happy to help. And there is another question here. Are classes recorded so we can watch a class if it's missed? And yes, so all of the Zoom classes are recorded this session. Every now and then we have an instructor who prefers not to be recorded, but I don't think that's true in this session. So they're all recorded, the ones that are on Zoom. So if you do miss a session, you can just send a quick email to the OLLI office, request it, and then you can watch it at your leisure. And in fact, you can watch all of them that way if you want to, and on demand if you prefer that over live. Is folk dancing indoors? Sally asks. No, so Sally, the folk dancing class is going to be outdoors, but it's under a tent. So if it rains or if it's really hot, you'll be protected both from the rain and the searing heat, because this is the Berkshires and both could happen in the same day. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It'll be in a tent, and the tent is actually very close to the large parking area at the mount, so it's very easy to get to as well. Any other questions? Hearing none, I just want to thank all of our instructors again, the co-founders of the second summer semester, Steve Tobin and Lenny Tabbs, our terrific president and vice president, Barbara Lane and Gordon Josephson, all of our board members. Over 200 of our members are volunteers. Together, we all work to create these great programs. And thank you also to our two staff, Ray and Andy as well. So have a great rest of the afternoon, and we'll see you online soon. Thank you.